Definition of bark up the wrong tree. The idiom bark up the wrong tree means to make the wrong choice, accuse the wrong person, or pursue the wrong course of action. It originates from hunting, where a dog might mistakenly bark at the base of a tree where no prey is present. Ha. Examples related to The Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 6. Rick thought Shane would support him, but he was barking up the wrong tree. Shane had his own ideas about survival. Andrea kept blaming Dale for holding her back, but she was barking up the wrong tree. He genuinely cared for her well-being. Herschel believed the walkers in the barn could be cured, but Rick knew he was barking up the wrong tree. Lori suspected Maggie was hiding something about Glenn, but she was barking up the wrong tree. Maggie was just trying to keep the farm secret. Daryl was sure that Sophia was still alive in the woods, but some of the group felt he was barking up the wrong tree. Shane accused Rick of being weak, but he was barking up the wrong tree. Rick was just as tough, but in a different way. Synonyms: chase a red herring, be off base, follow a false lead, make a false assumption, jump to conclusions, be on the wrong track.
The idiom bent out of shape means to be very upset, annoyed, or angry about something, often over a small or trivial issue. If someone is bent out of shape, they might be overreacting, getting frustrated, or taking offense when it's not really necessary. Examples: Mike got bent out of shape when his coworker took the last cup of coffee. She was bent out of shape just because I didn't text her back right away. Don't get bent out of shape over a small mistake. It's not the end of the world. My dad got bent out of shape when I borrowed his car without asking. Karen is always bent out of shape when someone disagrees with her. He was bent out of shape after missing his flight, even though there was another one in an hour. Synonyms: upset, annoyed, irritated, overreacting, agitated, flustered. To cave to means to give in or surrender to pressure, demands, or opposition, often reluctantly. It's like when a politician or leader initially resists, but eventually backs down because of public outcry, media scrutiny, or internal party pressure. Imagine Trump pushing a policy hard, but then backing off because of backlash. That's caving to the pressure. After weeks of resistance, the administration caved to mounting criticism and reversed the controversial immigration policy. The senator initially opposed the spending bill, but caved to pressure from party leaders. Despite promising to stand firm, the company caved to the boycott and pulled the ad campaign. The White House refused to negotiate at first, but eventually caved to demands from lawmakers. Social media backlash forced the CEO to cave to public outrage and issue an apology. He insisted he wouldn't change his stance, but after losing key supporters, he caved to the opposition. Synonyms: surrender to, give in to, back down to, bow to, yield to, succumb to. Definition: cut to the chase means to skip unnecessary details and get straight to the main point. It's used when someone wants to move past small talk or avoid wasting time on less important information. Examples: we don't have much time, so let's cut to the chase. How much is this going to cost? Instead of telling me your life story, can you just cut to the chase and say what you need? The manager cut to the chase and told us directly that layoffs were coming. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but let's cut to the chase. Are you going to invest or not? He's not one for long speeches. He always cuts to the chase and gets things done. We've been dancing around the issue for hours. Can we finally cut to the chase and make a decision? Synonyms: get to the point, be direct, skip the fluff, come straight to the point, stick to the essentials, get down to business.
Dig one's own grave means to act in a way that leads to one's downfall or causes serious problems for oneself. Examples: I told my boss I could finish the project in 2 days, but I have no idea how. I really dug my own grave with that promise. By lying to his girlfriend about where he was, he's just digging his own grave. She'll find out eventually. If you keep skipping classes like this, you're digging your own grave. You'll fail the exams for sure. I shouldn't have agreed to work overtime all week. I'm so exhausted now. I really dug my own grave with this decision. She insulted the CEO during the meeting without realizing who he was. She completely dug her own grave. By taking credit for someone else's work, he's just digging his own grave. The truth always comes out.
Definition of down to the wire. The idiom down to the wire means something happening at the very last minute or being decided up until the final moment. It originates from horse racing, where a wire was used to mark the finish line. Examples in conversational English: Dexter, Season 1, Episode 1. Man, that intro scene with Dexter hunting down that killer really took it down to the wire. He was seconds away from getting caught. Rita was on edge about her relationship with Dexter. It's like their future was down to the wire from the start. When Dexter stalks his next victim, you can tell it's going down to the wire. The tension builds right up to the kill. That last-minute blood slide discovery, it felt like everything was down to the wire for Dexter to cover his tracks. The Miami Metro team was down to the wire trying to piece together the ice truck killer's pattern before he struck again. That dinner scene with Deborah, she almost figured Dexter out. It was down to the wire before he deflected the conversation. Synonyms: at the last moment, on the brink, at the 11th hour, just in time, to the last second, on the edge. The idiom fall through the cracks refers to someone or something being overlooked, forgotten, or neglected, often due to inefficiencies or gaps in a system. It commonly describes situations where people in need of help or attention don't receive it, or when important tasks or responsibilities are unintentionally ignored. Examples: despite multiple warnings, the safety inspection somehow fell through the cracks, leading to a preventable accident. Many students with learning disabilities fall through the cracks in overcrowded classrooms without individualized attention. The missing persons case went cold because crucial evidence fell through the cracks during the investigation. During the transition to a new healthcare system, some patients' medical records fell through the cracks, causing delays in treatment. He was supposed to be promoted last year, but the paperwork fell through the cracks due to company restructuring. With so many applicants for the relief program, some truly needy families fell through the cracks and didn't receive assistance. Slip through the net, be overlooked, go unnoticed, be left out, be forgotten, be neglected.
Definition of flip-flop. A flip-flop refers to a situation where someone changes their opinion, decision, or stance on something repeatedly or in a contradictory way. Examples: she flip-flops between staying at her current job or finding a new one, depending on her mood. Last year, he flip-flopped on the decision to move abroad, first saying yes, then changing his mind. They were flip-flopping during the meeting, not agreeing on anything for a long time. I have a feeling she will flip-flop again and choose a different color for the wedding dress. You can't rely on his promises. He's always flip-flopping when it comes to commitments. After hearing both sides, he flip-flopped and decided not to take any action after all.
The idiom get one's bearings means to figure out where you are or to understand your situation, often after being disoriented or confused. Imagine the scene in Independence Day when the alien ships arrive and everything turns chaotic. People would definitely need to get their bearings to know what's going on and how to react. Examples: when the alien ships first appeared in Independence Day, the scientists at NASA needed a moment to get their bearings before they could respond. After waking up in the wreckage of the battle, Captain Hiller took a second to get his bearings before dragging the alien across the desert. The White House staff scrambled to get their bearings as the president demanded an immediate briefing on the unfolding crisis. After ejecting from his jet, the pilot looked around, trying to get his bearings before heading toward safety. When David and Julius arrived at Area 51, they had to get their bearings before realizing the government had been hiding aliens for decades. Jeff Goldblum's character took a deep breath, checked his laptop, and got his bearings before explaining how to take down the mothership. The idiom go over the top has two meanings: one, to exceed expectations or surpass a goal. Example, our fundraising campaign went over the top by $3,000. 2, to be excessive, extreme, or exaggerated. Example, her imitation of the president was over the top and completely offensive. Here are 6 examples related to Dexter Season 1, Episode 3, as if discussing the show casually. Did you see how Dexter's blood slide trophy moment was so detailed? I mean, that scene totally went over the top with how methodical he was. Rita's ex-husband showing up like that, the guy just goes over the top with his creepy controlling behavior. That ice truck killer crime scene, over the top and completely theatrical. Who even thinks of something like that? Masuka's jokes in the lab, he always goes over the top trying to be funny, but half the time it's just cringeworthy. Lagerta's attempts to manipulate Dexter into liking her are so over the top. Like, does she not see how weird she's being? When Deb was desperately trying to prove herself, she went over the top with her enthusiasm. Like, chill, Deb, we get it. Synonyms: exaggerated, outrageous, overdone, excessive, extravagant, extreme.
The expression lay bare means to reveal or expose something that was hidden or secret. It can refer to uncovering truths, emotions, or facts that were previously concealed. Here are 6 examples using lay bare in different contexts. She lays bare her thoughts on the subject during the interview. The journalist's article laid bare the corruption within the organization. His personal struggles were laid bare for the public to see after the documentary aired. As the investigation progressed, the truth was laid bare. The report lays bare the weaknesses in the current policy. He laid bare his feelings for her, leaving no room for doubt. Reveal, expose, disclose, unveil, uncover, manifest.
Our definition of lay of the land. If you've ever stepped into a new job, a new city, or even just a new social situation, you've probably needed to get a sense of the lay of the land. This phrase originally referred to the physical features of a landscape, hills, valleys, rivers, but over time it has taken on a broader meaning. Now it's used to describe understanding the structure, organization, or general situation of a place, company, or situation before taking action. Think of it as sizing things up before making a move. 6 examples of lay of the land in use. Before making any major changes at the company, the new CEO spent a few weeks getting the lay of the land. The first thing I do when I visit a new city is walk around the neighborhood to understand the lay of the land. Before jumping into the debate, he took some time to assess the lay of the land and see which arguments were gaining traction. As a freshman, it took me a semester to really figure out the lay of the land at college. The general wanted to survey the lay of the land before launching the attack. When the merger was announced, employees scrambled to understand the lay of the land and see how it would impact their roles. 6 synonyms for lay of the land: the setup, the structure, the framework, the situation, the landscape, the organization. The idiom nest egg refers to a sum of money set aside for the future, typically for retirement or an emergency fund. Think of it as a financial cushion, something you build up over time to ensure security down the road. Just like a hen carefully lays eggs in a nest for safekeeping, people save money to protect themselves financially. Now let's consider how this term applies in economic and political discussions. When politicians talk about policies affecting Social Security or 401k plans, they're essentially discussing how people can grow and protect their nest eggs. If an economic downturn erodes the stock market, that nest egg might shrink, leaving retirees in a precarious position. On the flip side, high interest rates can be a boon for savers looking to build their financial safety net. Examples: with inflation on the rise, many retirees worry their nest egg won't last as long as they planned. End quote. She started building her nest egg in her 20s, setting aside a portion of every paycheck. The economic crisis wiped out a significant part of his nest egg, forcing him to delay retirement. A well-managed investment portfolio can help grow a modest nest egg into a comfortable retirement fund. Government policies on taxation and interest rates directly impact how quickly people can grow their nest eggs. He dipped into his nest egg to cover unexpected medical expenses, but hopes to rebuild it soon. Synonyms: savings, retirement fund, financial cushion, rainy day fund. investment portfolio, emergency fund. Definition of nip in the bud. To nip something in the bud means to stop a problem or bad behavior before it grows into something more serious. It's about taking early action to prevent bigger issues down the line. 6 examples related to Dexter Season 1, Episode 2. Dexter knew he had to nip it in the bud when his sister started digging into the ice truck killer's methods. If she got too close, things could get complicated. That moment when Rita's abusive ex showed up, Dexter was ready to nip that problem in the bud before things escalated. Dokes kept following Dexter around, sensing something was off. If Dexter didn't nip that in the bud, he'd have a real problem. The ice truck killer's game was getting bolder, leaving clues for Dexter. He needed to nip this cat and mouse game in the bud before it got out of hand. Masuka's inappropriate jokes were starting to get on everyone's nerves. Maybe someone should nip that in the bud before HR gets involved. Deborah was so eager to prove herself that she was chasing bad leads. Dexter subtly helped her nip that in the bud so she wouldn't waste time. 6 synonyms: cut off early, stop in its tracks, squash before it grows, halt at the source, shut down quickly, kill before it spreads. The idiom roll with the punches means to adapt to difficult circumstances and continue despite setbacks or challenges, much like a boxer who adjusts to a punch instead of resisting it. In the context of The Walking Dead, Season 1, Episode 3, here are 6 examples of this idiom being applied. Rick has to roll with the punches when he realizes the severity of the situation in the hospital. Shane kept rolling with the punches, even as the group's morale began to crumble after losing so many people. Lori had to roll with the punches, adjusting to the idea of surviving in a world overrun by walkers. Even though the group faced constant danger, they learned to roll with the punches and take each day as it came. When they were cornered by walkers in the woods, the group had no choice but to roll with the punches and fight their way out. Carl rolling with the punches showed his growing resilience as he adjusted to the horrors of the new world. Synonyms: adapt, adjust, cope, endure, tolerate, persevere. Definition of scratch the surface: to just begin to understand or accomplish something without going into depth. Examples from Dexter Season 1, Episode 4, conversations style. Dexter's finally looking into his past, but honestly, he's only scratching the surface. There's way more to uncover about Harry's training. You think Deb's onto something big with that ice truck killer case? Nah, she's just scratching the surface. There's a lot more to dig up. That therapist? Yeah, he got Dexter to talk, but let's be real. He barely scratched the surface of what's going on in his head. Rita thinks she understands Dexter, but she's only scratching the surface. She has no clue about his real darkness. That crime scene looked bad, but Angel and Dokes, they just scratched the surface. The real horror's still hidden. Dexter's fascination with the ice truck killer is growing, but he's only scratching the surface. The connection is deeper than he realizes. Synonyms: just getting started, barely touching on, skimming the top, only beginning to grasp, not going in depth, just scratching the top layer. Definition of spill the beans. Spill the beans means to reveal a secret or disclose confidential information, often unintentionally or prematurely. Imagine you're watching Severance, where secrets are the foundation of everything. If one of the employees suddenly started talking about what really happens inside Lumon, they'd be spilling the beans and probably facing some severe consequences. Examples in use. Mark accidentally spilled the beans about Lumon's real agenda, and now he's in danger. When Helly saw the outside footage, she nearly spilled the beans to her colleagues, but Milchick intervened just in time. You mean to tell me you've known about the overtime contingency all along? Yeah, but I couldn't spill the beans. Dylan couldn't resist spilling the beans about the secret rewards room, even though he was sworn to secrecy. Irving suspected that Bert knew more than he let on, but he wasn't ready to spill the beans just yet. If Harmony Cobell ever spilled the beans about what's really going on at Lumon, the entire company could collapse overnight. Synonyms: let the cat out of the bag, give away the secret, blurt it out, let it slip, expose the truth, divulge information. Definition of stave off in business and financial contexts. Stave off means to delay or prevent something undesirable from happening, often through proactive measures. In business and finance, this phrase is commonly used when referring to actions taken to avoid financial distress, economic downturns, corporate failures, or other negative situations. Examples: the central bank raised interest rates to stave off inflation and stabilize the economy. The struggling company secured emergency funding to stave off bankruptcy for a few more months. The government implemented stimulus measures to stave off a recession caused by declining consumer spending. The CEO announced cost-cutting measures to stave off layoffs and keep the company profitable. Investors injected additional capital into the startup to stave off liquidity issues and ensure continued operations. The company launched an aggressive marketing campaign to stave off declining sales and maintain its market position.
Walkthrough, regarding teaching how to use an app. In instructional contexts, walkthrough means guiding someone step by step through a process or feature, explaining each part in detail to ensure understanding. This helps users learn how to perform specific tasks within the app by following a structured sequence. Examples. 1. In this tutorial, I'll walk you through the process of creating a new project in Trados Studio, covering each option you need to set up your translation. 2. Let me walk you through adding a drop shadow in Photoshop so you can understand how each setting affects the look of your image. 3. We'll walk through how to set up conditional formatting in Excel so you can highlight cells based on specific criteria. 4. I'll walk you through exporting a PDF in Adobe Acrobat, showing you how to adjust settings for optimal quality and file size. 5. Let's walk through setting up master pages in InDesign, which will help you create consistent layouts across your document. 6. I'll walk you through connecting translation memories in MemoQ, allowing you to reuse translations from previous projects effectively.
Definition: wedded to something. Mentally attached to something, firmly committed to an idea, notion, perspective, etc. Examples: she is completely wedded to the idea that technology can solve all modern problems. The professor remains wedded to his traditional teaching methods despite student complaints. He is wedded to his political beliefs and refuses to consider opposing viewpoints. The CEO was wedded to the old business model, which ultimately led to the company's downfall. They are so wedded to their routine that any small change makes them anxious. The mayor is wedded to his budget plan, refusing to make adjustments even when necessary.